Hello guys, welcome back to our anime explainer. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of Tales of Herding God Part 148 based on novel. So let's start. In the capital, Elder Fu went into Imperial Preceptor's manor in a fluster to report, "Old Master, His Majesty is here to visit." Imperial Preceptor rose to welcome the guest, and the two heroes of Eternal Peace Empire met. Ling Yuxiu came after Emperor Yang Feng, who gave his friend a deep look. Understanding his meaning, Imperial Preceptor waved his hand for Elder Fu to fall back. "Your Majesty came to find me before even going to the palace, so something big must have happened." Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor looked with inquiry at Ling Yuxiu. "There's only 3 of us here, so your Majesty can speak." Did Imperial Preceptor felt it? Emperor Yang Feng asked. 5 days ago, the fluctuation of heaven and earth. Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor nodded. It was a very marvelous fluctuation. The law changed and the path changed, and there was an abnormal change in the great Tao of heaven and earth as well. Someone created a reform and it touched me greatly. Emperor Yang Feng took out the 2 version of the technique of Primordial Spirit Guide and handed it to him. "Imperial Preceptor, take a look." Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor flipped through the pages in detail, his expression growing more and more solemn. After some time, he closed Primordial Spirit Guide and said, "It's Princess and Cult Master Qin's handwriting. 6 directions is reform changed 7 stars, celestial being, life and death, and divine bridge. So no wonder there was such a huge motion. Princess Xiao is not bad. Her achievements in the future won't be inferior to yours and mine." He was extraordinarily wise, and didn't need Emperor Yang Feng to give him a hint to know that it was made by Qin Mu and Ling Yuxiu. On top of that, he also guessed what consequences their work would bring. Emperor Yang Feng nodded. "The source of the reform comes from these 2 scrolls. I came to find you without stopping for rest, because the situation is grave. The effect is still very mild, so those who aren't great masters, who had reached the level of skill won't be able to detect it. But for existences who had reached the level of the path, the effect is blatant. You said it touched you greatly, so looks like you entered the path a step earlier than I. I reached the path not long ago, so it isn't clear yet. However, that fluctuation flooded in like waves from all direction, and I was standing among them, experiencing that fine change of the great Tao of heaven and earth." Emperor Yang Feng listened carefully to his words and praised, "The realm of the path is truly marvelous. You've been affected this much, so how would the gods feel? Even worse." Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor's eyes shone with hazy rays as he said, "Your Majesty wasn't in the capital these few days, so you don't know that memorials have been flying in like a flurry of snowballs. Your Majesty, please take a look." He took out dozens of memorials, which were from various country magistrates, all over the empire. Emperor Yang Feng opened one, which was by the county magistrate of Initiate Peace County. It said that an earthquake had happened at Grandma Chi-Yu Temple. Other places had no tremors, except for Grandma Temple, which had collapsed, crushing over a dozen believers. When Initiate Peace County Magistrate brought a group of people to clean up the debris, they saw that the mountain on which the temple had been built had split apart. In the huge crack, there was a god statue of a giant's upper body. It was the color of flesh, and the light of runes flowed across its body. Emperor Yang Feng frowned slightly as he thought for a moment. He passed that memorial to Yuxiu and picked another one for himself. It had been sent by the magistrate of Bent Prefecture, and spoke about strange incidents happening at Great Bent Lake. When it was midnight, abnormal lights would burst into the sky from the lake, covering its whole surface. There was a huge life form rising from the lake with eyes like lanterns. It was said that it was Bent Lake Sovereign, which wanted the people at the shore to offer virgin men and women as tribute. The magistrate sent his bailiff to investigate, and numerous divine arts practitioners had already died. Emperor Yanfeng's brows tensed up as he flipped through the other memorials. Some were about shrines splitting apart, with extremely ancient god statues appearing and shattering the god statues that the people were worshipping. Some spoke of earth shakes and god statues rising in riverbeds. Some of those statues didn't move, but others demanded tribute from people living in their region. There were also numerous places that burst forth with strange lights, or had strange creatures appear in their territory. However, no one could take them away. There's no such gods in our eternal peace empire. Ling Yuxiu looked through the memorials, then placed them down. She pondered over what she'd read before asking, where did those god statues come from? They definitely couldn't have just popped out from the ground. Also, the treasures mentioned in the memorials don't seem to have been left by someone, for they are treasures of gods. Not from underground, Emperor Yangfeng said. If they had existed underground, they would have been found long ago. Those stone statues and treasures should have come from another world. It should not be just one world, Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor said solemnly. Great ruins have similar stone statues, and rumor says that they are gods who had petrified their bodies. They are in slumber, waiting for something, but they can transform back into their real bodies anytime. If these stone statues came from another world, the timing they chose is very peculiar. Princess and Cult Master Qin created Primordial Spirit Guide, changing the great Tao of heaven and earth, and the next moment, numerous stone statues and strange treasures appeared all around the world. There's definitely a connection between them, Emperor Yangfeng said. Imperial Preceptor, the origin and aim of those stone statues have to be investigated. This reminds me of the incident 2 years ago, when Zhu Qian Devil King descended. Back then, he relied on Cult Master Qin's sacrifice, and a sacrificial altar to be summoned into our world. Furthermore, only his consciousness and part of his power had come to eternal peace, since his body required even more deaths and live sacrifices. Emperor Yangfeng and Ling Yuxiu listened quietly without interfering. What Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor wanted to say was extremely important, so they couldn't be careless. This means that traveling through different worlds requires an immense amount of energy. The stronger the existence that is traveling to another world, the greater the energy required. Since the great Tao of heaven and earth changed, the stone statues of those gods descended. Yet they should have only been able to send their stone statues over, while their power is unable to transfer for the time being. They need countless sacrifices of flesh and blood to call over their true bodies. Emperor Yangfeng and Ling Yuxiu's hearts stirred as a terrifying thought suddenly formed in their heads. Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor helped them by saying it out loud. They need to create a large-scale natural disaster for many people to die, for only then could their true bodies come to eternal peace. Emperor Yangfeng and Ling Yuxiu's blood ran cold. The previous natural disaster had already caused countless people to lose their lives, and Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor had yet to recover from his encounter with the god. If another natural disaster was to happen, the empire was definitely going to fall into ruin, and countless living beings would fall into utter misery. According to my guess, the gods of high heavens will soon receive an order to send disaster for our eternal peace, Imperial Preceptor said solemnly. This natural disaster will definitely not be inferior to the snow disaster before. It can be an earthquake, eruption of volcanoes, tornadoes, floods, or even snow disaster or drought. As long as it's a disaster that can kill billions of people, anything is possible. Emperor Yangfeng croaked out in a hoarse voice, "What you mean is eradicate high heavens," Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor said indifferently. We need to eradicate the gods of high heavens, since if I didn't guess wrong, the ones in charge of sending disaster to this world is none other than high heavens. If we get rid of it, all the stone statues around the world won't be able to transform into gods or devils, and the people will then be spared from death. We need to make a move first, eradicating all the gods of high heavens. Emperor Yang Feng felt a splitting headache. He raised his hands to hold his head and gritted his teeth. High heavens is in West Earth, and we don't know how many gods and devils they have. So how would we gain the ability to eradicate high heavens? If we could wait a few more years, allowing more experts to patch their divine bridge and cultivate to the god realm. Your Majesty, they won't give you the time. If what I guessed is correct, the treasures mentioned in those memorials are meteorological weapons. Emperor Yang Feng and Ling Yuxiu's blood ran cold. Meteorological weapon was an idea suggested by Qin Mu. By keeping meteorological phenomenons, for example, snowstorm, hails, tornadoes, floods, volcano eruptions, and earthquakes, in bottle gourds, they could adjust the weather during normal times. If they were to attack enemy countries, they could also use the meteorological weapons to kill the enemy troops. The time Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor had attacked the prairie, Pan Gong so had made the great shamans poison all the water sources. To get rid of the shaman poison and save the herdsmen of the prairie, Imperial Preceptor had then used bottled storms to make it rain for 10 days, which cleansed the land and washed away all of the poison. However, quite a number of herdsmen had drowned in the flood. Because of that, Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor had been accused of misconduct by the Contrarians, which caused him some trouble. If he wasn't wrong and those treasures of gods and devils were all meteorological weapons, the gods of high heavens just needed to come over, and they would be able to activate them, releasing all kinds of meteorological phenomenon to cause grave casualties in Eternal Peace Empire. With that many people dead, the stone statues would receive enough flesh and blood sacrifices for the power of those gods and devils to flow in like a long river. Once the stone statues regained their true forms, a massacre would begin, and they would wipe out the whole world. I shall immediately send orders and command people to guard the stone statues and treasures. I can't let those things fall into the hands of high heavens. Cold sweat started rolling down Emperor Yanfeng's forehead, and he started walking to and fro. We definitely can't let them find them. Why are they doing this? Can't they just let the people of this world live better lives? I don't understand. The reform touches the benefits of the gods and devils. It changes the Tao, and the gods and devils won't be tolerated by it if they can't change accordingly, said Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor. There is definitely an even deeper reason for it, but we are lacking too much information to deduce the truth. Your Majesty, I need Human Emperor to come personally. Emperor Yang Feng looked at him. Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor looked into the distance and muttered, "Only when Human Emperor calls for it would all the sacred grounds and strong practitioners listen and join hands to wipe out high heavens. Only the Human Emperor that all the sects revere can make them follow him wholeheartedly." Ling Yuxiu was stupefied. Wasn't the current Human Emperor Qin Mu? Wasn't Human Emperor's seal in Qin Mu's hands? Based on that logic, didn't it mean that Qin Mu also had to attack high heavens? I'll go speak with Human Emperor. Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor rose and left. Qin Mu was cultivating his primordial spirit with Sai Yinxiang at that moment, the two of them roaming around. When they came to a spot, a majestic mountain there suddenly split, and a huge stone statue rose from the depths of the crack. What's happening? Is this great ruins? The two of them were astonished. They suddenly smelled a fragrance, and their hearts couldn't help shaking. We had just lighted Soul Guide incense to come to play around, and it couldn't have finished that fast. Someone had to have blown the incense all the way to the bottom. Their primordial spirits were summoned back into their corporeal bodies. Qin Mu opened his eyes and saw village chief, butcher, mute, and even old Ma. Qin Mu was astonished. Since Butcher had come back, village chief and the rest should know that Xing'an had attacked and got severely injured. With the danger of Xing'an solved, It was a surprise that old Ma didn't remain in Great Thunderclap Monastery, but instead came with village chief and the rest. Village chief, Xing'an. Village chief shook his head. Xing'an's matter is insignificant. I've called you back, because there's something important. Are you able to contact Heavenly Devil Patriarch? Qin Mu's heart stirred as he said, did something big happen? Patriarch and Elder of Discipline left to roam the world and said that Elder of Discipline would bring his ashes back after he died. Village chief, what exactly is going on? Saint Xiong and I discovered something weird when roaming just now. A mountain split apart, and a stone statue rose up. Are you here because of that? Sai Yinxiang nodded repeatedly as she added, that stone statue was very terrifying and seemed to be growing out from the mountain, rising upward quickly. There's not only one stone statue. Old Ma gave others a feeling that his wisdom was smooth and round like a pearl. Stone statues have appeared all around the world, and there is about 100 of them. There are numerous strange treasures as well. These objects have all appeared suddenly, and are things that are not from our world. Some stone statues had burst from under Mount Meru, hitting it, but they didn't split it. Instead, they were suppressed. Qin Mu had a weird expression. Mute's expression was grim as his fingers jumped rapidly to make weird gestures. This kind of stone statue is a sign that the gods and devils are descending. Def looked at his hands and said, the gods and devils from the other world can't cross the world barrier easily, so they chose to petrify themselves into stone statues that have no energy to send themselves over. With this, their primordial spirit and magic power would remain in their respective worlds. If they wanted to regain their body of flesh and blood, they would need blood sacrifices to summon their primordial spirit from another world. We saw a few of the treasures on the way, and they are meteorological weapons used to draw great calamities for massacring the populace. Don't look at me, that's what Mute is saying. Everyone looked at Mute and village chief couldn't resist asking, how do you know so much? You understand all of it even better than I do. Mute grinned, signaling with his hands. Deaf then said, this guy is acting mute and deaf again. I didn't understand what he signaled. This matter is too terrifying. From what I see, there's no need to find Patriarch or anyone else. Let's return to Great Ruins immediately. Granny Sai said. So many stone statues had appeared in eternal peace, and once they revive, who can defend against them? Old Ma, don't be a Rulai anymore, let whoever wants to take over. I also don't want this manor anymore, so let's just all return to Great Ruins immediately. Butcher shook his head and said, Granny, it isn't good to just leave like this, right? Aren't we going to be cowards if we hide in Great Ruins? A man should have an indomitable spirit, and fight a vigorous battle. Granny Sai gave him a look and said coldly, if you aren't leaving, do you want to die? Do you want to return to before, living miserably with your upper body alone? Butcher's face flushed red from anger. I won't stoop myself to your level. Village chief coughed and said, Granny, human emperor needs to take on the responsibility. Take on the responsibility. Granny Sai smiled with extreme anger. Can you take on the responsibility? You couldn't yet, you still pushed Mua into the pit. If you have the capability, take on the responsibility yourself. Look at you now, hiding in Great Ruins like a rod and acting dead, yet you still have the face to talk about responsibility. Village chief was too angry to even form words. You, what you? Granny Sai asked ruthlessly. There are over 100 stone statues. If you have the ability, go cut down all of them. Otherwise, you shall also go back obediently to Great Ruins and act dead like me. Deaf coughed and said, Granny, you're going overboard. How is it related to you? I brought Qin Mu up, cleaning his pee and poop. All you did every day was hit his palm with a black face. If it was not because you could write well and taught Mua to read, I would have beaten you to death long ago. Def stuttered from his fury. One can learn without a beating. You unreasonable woman. Only a lowly person would quarrel. Granny Sai put a cowskin over his head, and Def instantly became a mooing bull. Granny, I think, Apothecary started to say, but was cut off as well. Scram. Granny Sai said coldly. Go back and serve those women of yours. All right, Apothecary replied frankly and turned to leave. Mute knocked on his tobacco pipe and signaled. Shut up, you bad egg, always full of mischievous ideas. Mute lowered his head, feeling extremely wronged. He stopped talking. Cripple opened his mouth, wanting to say something, but Granny Sai turned around to stare at him. Cripple then shuddered and laughed dryly. Why are you so fierce? We can discuss this peacefully, ha ha. Everything is good. Old Ma, say something. I listen to your words the most, so if you say to return to the village, I will return. Old Ma says go and I will go. Granny Sai glanced at Old Ma. If you don't return to Great Ruins, I will go to your Great Thunderclap Monastery, and you can see how many monks will be left in your monastery. Old Ma didn't say a word. Blind, say something. Village chief looked at Blind. If Mua wants to stay, then we shall stay. If Mua wants to return to Great Ruins, we shall also return. Granny Sai looked at him coldly, and Blind closed his eyes. Granny, if you want to take Mua away, they can't stop you, but I can. I brought Mua away once, so I know his resolve. We are all old, and if village chief won't manage to patch his divine bridge, he probably won't make it past next spring. So why do we have to strain our relationships? Just listen to what Mua has to say. Granny Sai's heart softened, and she looked at Qin Mu. In a gentle voice, she said, Mua, you are already a grown-up. The baddies of the village taught you to be like that, but you shouldn't learn bad from them. Follow Granny back. You shall marry any girl you like, and Granny will wait to carry her grandson. Qin Mu looked around in a daze before lowering his head. Sai Yunxiang looked around her surroundings, also slightly at a loss. She didn't know what was happening. Aunt is pretty or inspiring, scolding all these godlike existence into obedience. When can I become this impressive as well? After a moment, Qin Mu raised his head. These stone statues are like the stone statues of Great Ruins, gods and devils who had petrified themselves, but they had suddenly appeared, because Yushio and I founded Primordial Spirit Guide. Those stone statues have came to wipe out eternal peace, right? In that case, the trouble is caused by me, isn't it? They are here to kill me. It might not have been caused by you, but Emperor Yangfeng killing Jade Sovereign of High Heavens with the cannon. Based on the timing, High Heavens should have reported that event to their masters. Besides, Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor and Emperor Yanfeng's reform would have brought this sooner or later, just probably several years later, village chief explained. This change doesn't rest solely on your shoulders, but also the reform. First, Emperor Yanfeng's cannon raised the attention of the masters of High Heavens. Then, Princess Xiao and you founded Primordial Spirit Guide, which brought about some changes to the Great Tao. In that case, part of the reason is still me. Qin Mu pondered it for a moment, then said to Granny Sai, Granny, I'm not going back. I still have many friends here, like Wei Yong, Chen Wanyun, Mu Qingdai, and Yu Qinghong. I don't want to hear news of their deaths a few years later. Didn't you guys say it before? I should clean up after myself. Granny Sai was slightly stunned. Butcher taught you to be loyal, so you are really going to be loyal. What's loyalty going to do? Can it save your life? Qin Mu shook his head. It won't, but it will put my heart at ease. Granny Sai was first stunned, then she sighed. At ease. I don't know if you'll still be able to feel at ease when Eternal Peace Empire is wiped out by the fire of war. But you have grown up and have your own ideas. Fine then, I won't force you. Invite Patriarch back. Qin Mu blinked and asked with curiosity, why do I have to invite Patriarch? We old bones discussed and felt that high heavens would come to activate the treasures, which broke out from the earth and release various natural disasters, using the resulting deaths as sacrifices to bring over the gods, whose stone statues have risen in eternal peace. To stop that, we discussed a plan to attack the high heavens to prevent their actions. Since those statues are the bodies of gods and devils, why don't we just smash them? Qin Mu asked in bewilderment. Once the gods and devils petrify themselves, they become incomparably tough, too hard to shatter, Blind said. Have you ever seen shattered stone statues in great ruins? Qin Mu pondered over it, realizing that it was indeed the case. He had roamed around in great ruins numerous times, but rarely seen shattered stone statues. However, he had seen numerous Dragon King statues whose heads had been severed in the East Sea. That time, it should have been the Heavenly King of Heavenly King Temple. He'd ridden the dragon Qilin to quell the rebellion in the East Sea, using green dragon crescent blade to sever the heads of Dragon King's stone statues. Can we move the stone statues to great ruins? Qin Mu asked. If we move them to great ruins and place them near the stone statues there, we wouldn't have to worry about them reviving and created a ruckus. Cripple smiled and said, carrying a stone statue is like carrying a god. Who can carry a god and walk tens of thousands of miles to great ruins? Besides, it's not just 1 or 2, but over 100. Qin Mu frowned. The god statues were indeed terrifyingly heavy. An existence like Old Ma would have to rest after walking just 1,000 yards. On top of that, Old Ma was a person who had a strong corporeal body. Saint Asyong, what method does the sacred cult have to contact Patriarch, or Elder of Discipline? Qin Mu turned his head to ask the girl. My Sai family has 2 heart inspection mirrors which act as a pair. By mumbling the other person's name and imagining their voice and appearance, one is able to contact another person, seeing them and hearing their voice. Patriarch and Elder of Discipline have 1 such inspection mirror, so it's simple to contact them. I shall go inform Elder Lady and get her to contact Patriarch. There's still a toy-like heart inspection mirror in the sacred cult. Qin Mu said in astonishment. Sai Yunxiang rolled her eyes at him. You became the sacred cult master 2 years ago, and how many times have you gone to Saint Arrival Mountain? The sacred cult Sai family, Yu family, Sha family, have you visited them? If you weren't a decent cult master, I would have long rebelled against you. Qin Mu smiled. You won't, you don't have the ability. Sai Yunxiang was driven mad, but could only contact the great-grandmother of Sai family. She wanted to be as awe-inspiring as Granny Sai, but the brat didn't give her face, giving her no chance to become impressive. Grandpa Butcher, the sun, moon, and stars in the sky, the Milky Way, and the constellations are all fake. Qin Mu came to Butcher's side and said, Grandpa Butcher should know numerous secrets, right? Butcher pulled out his pig-slaughtering knives and grinded the blades against each other. When talking about this, I can't not talk about the martial art I founded, every cloud has a silver lining. Back then, I was a great master of the battle techniques, and all I wanted to do was to create an ultimate art that had no comparison. Back then, I was overflowing with confidence and felt that I was invincible in this world, that any divine art could be destroyed with 1 knife strike. However, I had never fought with heaven before, so I wanted to split the sky and jump out to fight with heaven. Back then, Butcher was a maniac. He was overbearing, invincible, lonely, and full of ambition, instead of being rough like right now. Not only was his knife skills superb, he was also knowledgeable, and the poems he wrote were bold and unrestrained. He was also a gifted scholar that was renowned at that time. His knife skills were called Heaven Knife, and he was also named after them. His every move was filled with poetic quality, speaking his mind and emotionally unrestrained. If disabled elderly village was ranked according to their literary talent, the first would be Deaf, but the second would be Butcher. Even though he'd grown crazy and spewed vulgarities, he was a famous literary giant back in the day. At that time, he had challenged nearly all of the experts, including even Pangong Tso. The Grandmaster of Roland's Golden Palace could only hide, not daring to face him. Butcher was enormously proud of his success, and besides an annoying disciple, his life was already complete. Of course, his disciple was also very remarkable. He was called Ba Shan and known as Hegemon Knife. For over 4 or 5 decades, wind and rain clouded the sky. As transient as a fleeting cloud, every cloud had a silver lining. One should not think about boasting, for after the crisis comes hope. When looking at the sky and sea, a journey taken seems but a smoke. Butcher created every cloud has a silver lining, and the battle technique school was pushed to a height at which it had never been. At that time, many people learned the way of the knife in the martial world, and the battle technique school became mainstream, suppressing spell divine arts, and sword technique divine arts. It was at that moment that Butcher finally couldn't resist attacking the sky. He wasn't a person like Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor with his reform, but a person who wanted to fight to his heart's content. After I founded that move, I immediately tested it, and the knife sliced the sky apart. Butcher swung his knife, and the knife skill he executed was none other than every cloud has a silver lining. He didn't unleash any power with this move, but only executed it once. He then pulled back his knife, his expression weird. He composed himself, seeming to be reminiscing about the period when he had become deranged. I saw a strange sight. The sky split open, but there were no stars behind it. I was very careful and didn't go up to check. Instead, I found a few like-minded friends who were all proficient in algebra. Qin Mu's heart stirred slightly. Butcher actually knew how to be careful. He was the one with the worst temper, the one who would go straight into things, slashing down as he swung his knives. This kind of personality should be a facade purposely created by Grandpa Butcher. Those who believe he is a boorish fellow should have all died, Qin Mu thought to himself. Then, I slashed toward the sky with my knife again. My algebra friends should have calculated the thickness and height of the sky, but there was a problem that time. Butcher fell silent. After a moment, he said sorrowfully, "My friends died." In the tear that I had slashed open, an eye appeared. A huge eye. A weird eye. When it looked at us, I felt my soul throbbing as though it was going to be pulled out of my body. However, my corporeal body was extremely strong, and my heart suppressed the throbbing along with my primordial spirit. However, my good friends didn't manage to do that. The corners of his eyes twitched, and he fell silent again. I didn't go up to the sky to find the owner of that eye immediately. Instead, I brought the corpses of my good friends back to their homes, letting their families arrange for their funerals and bury them. Butcher fell into a daze as he spoke. I knelt down and begged for forgiveness, especially from the family of my sworn elder brother. Elder sister was a very nice person, but she gave me a slap. She then told me to get out and leave for as far as possible, instead of taking revenge. I knew the meaning of her words. If I went and take revenge, I would definitely die. But I still went. He revealed a smile and said to Qin Mu, "My friends, my elder brother, all of them had died without knowing how it happened, and it happened because of me. So how could I not take revenge?" A man 8 feet tall, full of muscle, with heroism in his chest, and big knives in his hands, how could he not take revenge, not do what his heart said? Elder sister cherished me and didn't want me to die, But my knives and my heart were upright and plain-spoken, so I had to take revenge. That was why I carried my knives up to the sky. He, many people said I was a lunatic, right? Qin Mu nodded silently. Too many people had said Heaven Knife, who had raised his knives against the heaven, was a lunatic, that he had fought with the gods of heaven in the dark sky filled with clouds and lightning strikes. It was said that in that battle, Heaven Knife, the strongest practitioner of the battle technique school, had fallen to a devil's influence which made him challenge the heaven. His actions then became a legend carried down through the generations. Heaven Knife was severed in half at the waist, and his blood sprayed on the mortal world. The battle technique school lost their strongest practitioner, but it was still prospering. It was so until the rise of Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor who, because the battle technique school was fierce and liked to kill people frequently, challenged it in its entirety, killing numerous famous people. From then on, battle technique school went down the slope. I fought against the sky, but it was only this thick. Butcher made a pinching motion with thumb and index finger, leaving the space of 3 inches between them at most. Qin Mu didn't know whether to laugh or cry. The sky was 10,000 miles high and its thickness was 1,000 yards, which was calculated by Xu Xinghua, Wang Muren, and Lin Xian. But Butcher frequently talked drivel, wrote poems, and exaggerated, so 3 inches was only his metaphor. I fought my way up to the sky and saw numerous weird formations. Butcher looked at the sky in a daze. The sky was only the thickness of a line, but there were numerous complicated formations that operated automatically, presenting the shapes of the sun, moon, stars, Milky Way, and constellations. I was furious at that time. The bullshit heaven was all fake, yet the stubborn mules of Tao sect were still calculating heavenly cycles and constellations. Commoners even worshipped the sun and moon every day, paying their respects to those toys. I wanted to chop them up, to shatter them and see how they would then continue to fool people. But then, this video will end here.